Ian Moss, welcome to noise11.com.
Thank you.
I mean, you've been in the Northern Hemisphere, you're back in the Southern Hemisphere. You've got one tour followed by another tour. There's another new album coming up. A very, very busy 2023 for Ian Moss.
It is indeed. And great to be busy. Yeah, it's been a busy couple of years, particularly with the preparing for as best as one could in 21 during the COVID thing, and then getting stuck into recording late 21, which had its own upheavals with the scheduled producer deciding he didn't want to do it about 1 week before the start of recording. But then getting stuck into touring with Troy Cassar-Daley as well, which was something which got postponed a couple of times.
Yeah.
And touring and thankfully ended up writing with Troy Cassar-Daley.
Yeah.
In 22 and Red Hot Summer Tour all this year, and now can't wait to release this record.
Well, I guess Red Hot Summer really oiled the band up for getting in and doing all this activity.
Particularly the UK tour. I had Zoe Halpman was a bass player with myself and Troy. She was well and truly warmed up. But I've had Kerry Jacobson on drums. He played original Dragon drummer.
Yeah.
So everyone's all over the material. So the big guys have been playing me for a long time, so it didn't take long to get cranked up. The UK.
And into the studio for Rivers Run Dry, Brent Clark, who, you've mentioned Kerry Jacobson there. I think Brent worked with Dragon in the past as well. He's worked with Midnight Oil, Tommy Emmanuel, Daniel Johns more recently. I'm surprised that you and he hadn't worked together in the past.
No, I've never heard of or met Brent before this. And boy, did he step up to the plate. He's originally just there to engineer and take guidance from myself and producer, but ended up definitely earning 50% share of the, if not more, of the producer role. He was amazing, and just so grateful he was there given the circumstances.
But you really stepped up as well in the production role this time round. Has it been sort of the pattern in previous releases to sort of leave the producer to himself? I mean, this co-production is something, quite active for you to be suddenly involved with.
Maybe it's probably, I don't know if I'd ever step up to produce someone else's record, and maybe it's a little easier on your own if you just forget about that word producer. Just think about, just getting the song down as best as you can as you hear it, and then particularly given those contributed so much writing to the songs, perhaps it wasn't that difficult. But it was great having the support of not only Brent but also the band who weren't flummoxed at all by the losing producer at the last minute, and they pitched in big time as well.
Clayton Dooley, who you have a good track record with, and Kerry and Zoe. So that's the core of this band then.
Correct. Yeah.
And will that also be the band that goes on the road with you?
It will, in fact. Yeah. Adding the terrific, very affable Ollie Thorpe on guitar and slide guitar, and a very strong vocalist. It will be the core of the band. For the tour, actually, Clayton Doley's unavailable, unfortunately, but we've got a wonderful player, a girl by the name of Freya Garbett, who's more of a jazzer, really, but she's just getting that doesn't bother me at all. I kind of love. I'm always trying to tinge a bit of jazz into my stuff.
I was going to say there is a very much a jazz element in here. Even
depending on the song.
When I was listening to the album, the track "Open Your Eyes," I think Donald Fagen would be envious of that song.
Oh yeah. That's a good. That's a Mark Lazar song. That one. Yes, and I definitely called on Clayton to sort of just groove the chords up. Just get away from this. They could have been real stock standard, but to me, when it was doing that, it just sounded too 80s. So I did, so I wanted to go just to a certain extent, just get away from that, but not go too far down to, oh, look how clever we are with these chords, man. That's going to take years to figure this chord out. Just to give it more texture, just more interesting harmonies, harmonic content, as opposed to what could have been a dead straight ahead D, E minor, C, D, C, D. Just
that jazz feel merging in with the soul feel, and it's wonderful you brought the Stevie Wonder song in here and introducing your son Julian to play along here.
Yeah. There's a song I've been wanting to record for years. Ever since Cultures used to smash that out. It was on the turntable all the time when we moved to Armidale back in 1973 from the Talking Book album, Stevie Wonder's Talking Book album.
That would have been a brand new album at that point.
Oh, yeah. I remember both myself and John Swan, who worked with the band for a while, just loved that song, and both threatened to challenge each other to be the first to do our own version of it. But at the time, the chords were too hard to work out. But yeah, no, just stoked to get the young lad's very husky tones on there. He's got great tones, and no, very, very, very happy with the version.
What's Julian's career projection?
I mean, he's at uni doing a music course of some kind, which involves a lot of essays, and he's really getting sick of it because he's dead keen. He just writes and writes and writes. It's just such a good writer. He's disciplined every day. He just starts dead on the dot at 9 o'clock, and he's just so quick on using a DAW, digital audio workstation. Ableton is one of choice, and his harmonic, his ear for harmony is just amazing.
It's interesting. I've seen there's been a Barnes sibling collaboration with a Moss sibling collaboration. They would make an interesting band together. Yeah. Some great musicians. I mean, Mahalia is what a fantastic singer, and Jackie just is a tremendously good drummer and a good singer and a good piano player. So there are plenty of one day. You really rock out on this album with the track Nullarbor Plain. I mean, out of the album, that one leaps out of the speaker.
So it's funny, for some reason, that's the last one. I was wondering whether it was suited, but I'm sure glad Chris O'Hearn, my manager, sort of gave me a clip under the ear and said, "What are you talking about? Get it on there." It's a beauty. It's Troy Cassar-Daley really leading the way with lyrics there. Beautiful story. Good story. Muscle car and broken heart. Couldn't get a better combination.
You can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah. And Nullarbor Plain, you've already had that in the set. Now that was one of the songs that actually got played for the UK audience when you were over in the UK recently.
Yeah. Yes.
How did it go down for the English?
Oh, good, really good. How do you explain them? To talk about, explain the car and explain that's what it was about. I don't know if there were too many Ford GHDOs in the UK. I don't know enough. Maybe there were, but we certainly didn't have the expanse to drive them on like we did. No, that's gone down really well. The energy level of that one's. It was a must, and it's probably the highest energy track on the Rivers Run Dry album. Would have been a little out of balance without it, I think.
Yeah, when you just did that recent UK tour, like when I've spoken to Jimmy in the past, he talks about how all the expats come to the show. It's like an audience full of Australians. Was that what it was like for you when you went over there? Do you get a lot of expat Australians coming to see you when you perform in London, or is it? Oh
yeah, but it doesn't feel like a wall to wall thing. Thank goodness of just my Kasey. It's lots of plenty of stack of sort of I meet people afterwards and it'd be like a Australian guy said, "Oh, this is my British English wife or my English husband or whatever." So it was good.
Yeah, the set list that you're putting together for the UK was pretty similar to, what I was seeing earlier in the year with Red Hot Summer. When you get out to do the Rivers Run Dry shows, though, you're going to have all these new songs and limited places in which to insert them. How is that going to work?
It is. It's a bit of a balancing act because you really probably can't do the whole album as much as you'd like to. That'd be just a little bit too much for people to take on board, I think. I mean, it's not quite the problem the Cold Chisel had or has whenever it goes out. We've been over it and over and over with microscopes and we've finally decided no matter what, there are 14 songs. There are 14 songs that have to be played every night. So there's half your show easy. So then you have to start trying to fit in songs from other albums, and but I'm looking at Nullarbor, obviously, Rivers Run Dry, Open Your Eyes, beautiful Don Walker song, which somehow didn't end up on Cold Chisel's last album, and I'm glad it didn't, called "I Miss You in the Night." Kerry Jacobson song, The Wish. It's called. There's the 5. That's probably going to be about the max we can do.
Whenever Kasey Chambers is in town, a 6th.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Potentially.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I think, Julian's going to do a couple of supports. So I think we're looking at 7. Or 6 or whatever. With Blame It on the Sun.
Yeah. The actual title track, Rivers Run Dry, that's a big choir you've got in there. How will you perform that live?
It's always a challenge, isn't it? It's I don't know, you can just tell everyone to sing as hard as they can and tell the sound guy to use any tricks. He's got any sort of doubling tricks or whatever, voice doubling tricks out the front. That's always a challenge. But we'll find a way. We've got to. Everyone sings in the band, so that's I'm singing along as well. There's good 5 or 6 people hitting that chorus hard as they can. But it's a big sound. It's nice and gospely. There's some can do the best. Do our best.
Yeah, Rivers Run Dry is the 8th Ian Moss album. Chisel had 9 albums, so you're like if this was a football match, it's getting towards the end of the match. Who's going to win? I think there's a few more solo Ian Mosses probably more solo Ian Moss albums to come than Chisel albums, no doubt.
I certainly like to think there's more from me. This is really only in my whole life. It's a bit of a late starter. With the Ian Moss album released in March 2018, that's the first time I've sort of featured well over 50% of the writing, and as I've done with this album or thereabouts. So no, there's life in the old dog, writing life in the old dog left yet.
Yeah. This was quite a speedy exercise in the studio. 12 songs in 10 days. Is that the fastest you've ever made an album?
Yeah, it was pretty quick, mind you. There's lots of there's been lots of overdubbing sessions, and Brent's pretty meticulous like that. There's sort of in an ideal cool world, man, you do the whole album live in 3 or 4 days and chuck it out there and wouldn't do overdubs, but I'd like to see someone do that. So pretty quick for the rhythm tracks, but quite a lot of sessions of you had plenty to overdub. You would use horns, for example, backing vocals. They did probably more often than not. Guitar solos come later as well. Lead vocals come later, but overall, definitely up there in terms of getting an album done reasonably quickly.
What's the quickest you've ever made?
Matchbook was pretty quick.
Yeah.
By the
Wow.
time we got, but that's there's Lord Algie, Chris Lord Algie producing, sort of threatening that he's if we don't get on with this because he's got to get back to the LA man and mix Tina's next album, which he did a couple of times. Said, oh, come on.
Have you ever had any of those Steely Dan Fleetwood Mac moments in the studio where you spend 3 months on a drum track or something? Like has something taken forever? Any of the albums taken forever to come out?
No, look, Matchbook was quite a challenge in that we had been touring the songs, and then Chris Lord Alge had been lined up to come out to Sydney to produce in Sydney at the Rhinoceros Studios. And then the drummer decided he didn't like the band anymore and left 1 week before the recording was due to start. And Steve Prestridge thankfully came in and was doing great, and then decided he didn't like the producers and he fucked off. And then the bass player wouldn't stop trying to play Mark King over everything, Mark King style flat bass. So yeah, that was good. We ended up actually doing most of that album to a drum machine and putting the drums on last. John Robinson did it, and we took it all, did the whole album, took it back to LA and got John Robinson, who virtually did everything in one take. That's example of an ask about face way to record an album, yet it still worked.
Yeah. Well, if this is the first album since 2018, how old are the songs on the record, or your songs on the record?
They vary. I'm not. To me, maybe you should be hesitant to say that some of these songs are old, but then again, if a song's any good, who cares how old it is? We still like Gershwin stuff. Old Man River was written 120 years ago, and still fantastic music. So haven't got that out of the way. There's a couple of songs. The Last Time, for example, that was started writing that in about 1992 with Alan Roy Scott, an American songwriter that Mushroom had lined up to come out. He came out to my place on the Northern Beaches. So there's another song completed with him. There's one on the Ian Moss album called I Don't Know. That was done with Alan around the same time. State of My Emotion, which is another. That's the thing with this Rivers Run Dry album. There's no shortage of, and not shy about it, sort of very mixing up the styles. State of My Emotion, which turned to be like a Latin rock thing. Kerry Jacobson and I started writing that in the year 2000. What Can I Do? Started writing that in 2005, 2006. Same with I'm Going Back, which and a lot of these songs, most of the finishing off factor was lyrics. Always the hardest part. So grateful for Troy's fantastic set of lyrics, I think, for I'm Going Back, and also Don Walker's fantastic set of lyrics for What Can I Do? And the rest, Rivers Run Dry, of course, the title track is very recent and was written for a childhood mate of mine, Alice Springs mate of mine, who arguably burnt the candle at both ends, thinking he could do that forever. Well, I guess we all thought he had us convinced, and then went down to a massive stroke about 3 years ago, and at the time of the commencement of writing, wasn't even sure if he was going to pull through. Happy to say he did, somewhat worse for wear, but there's still a grin and a glint in his eye, and he still enjoys a drink and a smoke. So that song's about and for him. Mm-hmm. To name a few, Mark Lazotte's song "Open Your Eyes." I don't know. I think that's a fairly new one for Mark, and "The Wish" is quite a new one for Kerry Jacobson too. He wrote that on his own.
Mm. Do you have an archive?
An archive
of unreleased songs. Like we're continually seeing Neil Young digging back to the archive, and Bob Dylan digging back to the archive, and all these amazing things from 20, 30, 40 years ago being released now. Do you have like an archive of unreleased songs?
No, I might have an archive of unfinished ideas. But I don't know. I could surprise myself. That's archiving and file organization is just not my forte, to say the least. I'd be. It may or may not be there. I'd be scratching through hard drives for a year trying to dig stuff out.
So when you talk about a song that started off in 2000, is that all up here, or is it written down somewhere, or is it?
Oh, there'll be various demos along the way. Various, whether anything from a few lines sung onto some kind of recording device, whether it be an iPhone or a good old little dictaphone. Yes, yeah, to various forms of demos, stored away. Yeah, and you can burn your own CDs. So they're out there. I don't know. Yeah, yeah. Who knows when I come around to which, and it's probably already time to start writing for the next record. That's when maybe I'll start thinking of a few. I know I've got a few ideas. They're up here. They're fairly solidly up here. And I'm pretty sure I'll be able to dig them out. In the meantime, still always collecting, coming up with the way I've come up with any of these songs, which has always started off with hearing something in your head, grab your phone or whatever, and grab a guitar and just play a few chords, and there's your 1% inspiration filed away, ready for the 99% perspiration to hopefully finish it off.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see that the next album is already being thought of. That'll bring the Ian versus Chisel up to 9 versus 9. So we'll see who get after that.
Yeah, right.
And for a few of us, Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney, and Perth, we get to see these songs perform live on stage for the first time very shortly. Yes,
yeah. With just can't wait. It's from recording November 21. It's starting to get up there. It's where are we? Yeah, a year and a half later. Excited. Rehearsal starting in 2 weeks' time, and away we go.
And then 2024, probably casting the net out a little wider across the country. That would
be nice. It's just all as you know, it just depends. If the record goes really well, then you decide, get a chance to pick and choose what you want to do. But it'd be nice to get out there. I've got back to solo acoustic after this little run for the rest of the year. But I certainly hope to get the opportunity. Hope things develop, pan out, whatever, in a way that I can get the band out there more often. Both realms are equally challenging and rewarding. Solo acoustic, being able to do that with one guy and a guitar at the same time, there's nothing like being able to plug a Fender into a Strat into a Marshall and crank it to 10 and let it rip.
Well, we look forward to seeing you in various stages live over the next few months and the new album. Very nice stuff in there. I'd be very keen for the audience to hear more of these songs very, very soon.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you. Yeah, I'm keen to let them have
it. Good on you, Ian. Good to talk to you.
All right, man. Thanks very much.
Please hang up and try again.